The U.S. military is currently studying how or when to implement President Trump's ban on transgender troops serving in the military.
The president caught many people by surprise when he announced the ban in a tweet and a month later signed an official order for the ban. Tonight on Left Hook, Right Jab, we're debating the president's decision.
Here's KXL's Lars Larson and former city commissioner Steve Novick.
The transgender policy of Barack Obama was absolutely ridiculous. The thing Steve needs to remember is that the U.S. military has one purpose, and that is to keep this country safe. Sometimes that involves breaking things and killing people, but we try to avoid that as well. The military is not a social experiment. That's something that Barack Hussein Obama did not understand. And the fact is that transgender service is problematic. It's one of the reasons that the U.S. military regularly discriminates against Americans. Why? Because we don't put people in the military who are too old like me, or too fat like me, or who are disabled, or who have criminal records. The military discriminates in 100 different ways, and discriminating in this case is absolutely appropriate, Steve.
Lars, you know, a lot of people thought it was a dangerous social experiment to allow black people in the military, or women in the military, or gay people in the military. The way this was rolled out was ridiculous. Donald Trump sent out a tweet saying he consulted with the experts and the generals and we had to get rid of transgender people in the military. That turned out to be totally false. The military was caught flat-footed. Nobody at the Pentagon knew what the heck he was talking about. And the idea that transgender people pose a threat to the military is absurd. The RAND Corporation did a study last year saying that that was ridiculous. It doesn't affect readiness. It doesn't affect camaraderie, anything like that. There's this argument that it costs a lot of money to have transgender people in the military. That's totally false. The Pentagon spends more money on Viagra than they spend on medical services specific to transgender people. You know, the amazing thing, Lars, is that Donald Trump ran saying that he was going to rebuild America's infrastructure. He's done nothing on that. He said that he was going to replace the Affordable Care Act with a big, beautiful new health plan. That turned out to be a joke. What's he doing to make America great again? He's discriminating against one of the most vulnerable groups of people in America.
Steve, what's ridiculous about your argument is that it is expensive. If somebody goes into the military and then decides mid-service that they want to change from being a man to a woman or a woman to a man, the cost can run as much as $100,000 for the operation, and it takes that soldier or service member out of service for as much as a year. We understand that, and that's before you even get to the question of what do you do with the service member who is a man biologically and decides, I'm going to be a woman? Do you put him in the women's barracks, house him with the women? That creates all kinds of other problems that don't make any sense. And paying the costs of those operations, and it will be on the American taxpayer, is a cost we shouldn't have to pay. The transgender policy needed to be changed. Obama knew it, and now the Pentagon does as well.
Lars, the estimate of the cost of health care for transgender people is about $8 million a year. That sounds like a lot until you remember the Pentagon budget is $600 billion a year, and $1 billion is 1,000 millions. It's a ridiculously small amount of money in the context of the Pentagon budget. Just like the number of coal jobs you think that Donald Trump has created is ridiculously small as a percentage of the total American workforce.
The fact is that we do discriminate when we decide who's going to be in our military, because the #1 job of America's military is not a social experiment, but winning wars and keeping America safe.
People who've actually served in the military, like John McCain, say that this is discrimination for discrimination's sake against a group that has been the subject of lots of discrimination, an unusual amount of hate crimes.